And reports of ICE agents apprehending individuals with ties to ISIS-K has elected officials and national security experts concerned. Here's One America's Daniel Baldwin with more.
Reports say ICE officials apprehended 8 foreign nationals with connections to the terror group ISIS-K. Reports say that these individuals were from Tajikistan and they crossed over the southern border under President Joe Biden's watch. Officials are saying they might be concerned. Joining me now in studio is Tom Barrett, running for Congress in Michigan's 7th Congressional District. Sir, you have a background in the Army. You served at Guantanamo Bay. When you see reports like this, should that raise red flags for average day American citizens who are concerned about their safety?
Absolutely, without a doubt. I mean, Americans have to be concerned and rightfully are outraged by Joe Biden's absolute failure of leadership and collapse of any security along our southern border. Americans understand the threats that these pose. I tell people that I have stood closer than you and I to terrorists that absolutely hate the United States of America and seek to do us harm, and I understand what we have to do to defeat terrorism, the least of which is to keep them out of our country and keep Americans safe. It is a fundamental responsibility of government to do that. Our president has betrayed us in that responsibility, and it's up to us now to vote him out of office, elect new leadership, secure our border, and keep Americans safe.
Tom, I want to go back to that one thing you just mentioned. You said that I have stood closer than you and I are right now to terrorists. You've looked them dead in the eye.
Absolutely.
This is the same group, ISIS-K, that claimed responsibility for the Moscow bombing. And there was only 4 of those. There were 8 of them apprehended here. Can you just sort of verbalize what type of dangers that people who are associated with a terror group like that, the dangers that could perpetrate to the country, and what these people are actually capable of, since you've looked some of them in the eye?
Yeah, I mean, these are people that are intent on causing Americans harm. Terrorism, by its very definition, is seeking to achieve an outcome by using use of force against innocent civilians to effect that. We already know what they want to do. They want to create mass damage and mass casualties against Americans. They did that on 9/11. They're seeking to do it again. We have no idea what their next plot is going to entail, but we know what their motivations are. We should take them at their word that they're seeking to destroy America and destroy our allies abroad. It is the responsibility of our federal government, but the President of the United States is the head of that organization, to keep Americans safe. Fundamentally, government exists to protect our rights and keep us safe, and they are doing neither one of those things. And Joe Biden has failed in that regard. I've been down to the southern border. I've seen the wide open nature of it. When President Biden took office, he became the first president in American history to unsecure our border. That is inexcusable and indefensible, and it shows just the paradigm difference of candidates that we have for federal office this year. My own opponent in my congressional race stood behind sanctuary cities in Michigan, supported them. He called illegal immigrants in our country law-abiding citizens. I had to correct him that they are neither law-abiding nor citizens, but that's how he categorizes them, and he says that they have a status above those as Americans that were born here in this country. So again, this is an example of what we have to go out and vote on in this election. People who want to learn a little bit more about my platform can go to my website, tombarrettforcongress.com. You'll see that we talk a lot about border security because it is one of the foremost challenges that we see in the United States right now. I care deeply about it because of my national security background, because I've seen the threats of terrorism, I've seen the outcomes of what war brings to a country, and I don't want to see that happen to the United States.
Well, Tom, it's interesting you reference how your opponents support sanctuary cities. Michigan, as a state, in your specific congressional district, they've been greatly impacted by Joe Biden's open border. The Midwesterner reported that there could be upwards of around 100,000 illegal immigrants currently residing in your state. Your governor, Gretchen Whitmer, one of her policy platforms is to bring more migrants into the actual state. How does something like that affect a place like the 7th Congressional District in Michigan?
Well, it affects us deeply. We have more than one sanctuary city just in the 7th Congressional District where I'm running, and our governor is trying to seek, to your point, to bring more people who have entered the country illegally into the state of Michigan across every community, not just in my district, but across this entire state. She's luring people by giving housing stipends to people who have entered the country illegally while we have homeless veterans on our streets and a housing crisis where young people cannot afford to purchase their first home. So while we have illegal migrants coming into our state, getting preferential treatment, getting social welfare benefits, and getting housing credits and stipends given to them, we have people who are American citizens who've been left out, some of whom have gone off and fought wars for our country and sacrificed greatly, and they're being left behind. So Americans of all stripes, in particular in Michigan and in the district that I am seeking to represent, see this as categorically unfair. So whether they're concerned about the security threats that these bring, or just simply the overwhelming cost associated with this, or the fundamental unfairness of it, they all agree that this is an absolutely critical problem. It's why you're seeing Joe Biden try and jump through hoops to pander to people and pretend like he's doing something to secure the border, when in fact he has sat on his hands for 3.5 years, unsecured our border, lifted the Remain in Mexico policy, eliminated Title 42, disrupted any construction of the border structure and border wall down at the southern border. There were panels of the border wall laying on the ground when I was down there last year because he halted in its tracks any further completion of the border wall, and Americans are less safe because of that.
Tom Barrett, running for Michigan's 7th Congressional seat. Sir, we wish you best of luck. We appreciate you joining us in studio.
Thank you so much for having me.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.